For the sleeves, you should have 2 rows of basting stitches at the bottom of the sleeve here. Now the instructions tell you to put in 3 rows of basting stitches for the sleeve cap, but I just put 2 rows in. You can put 3 if you want to. I don't think 3 is quite necessary, but you can do that. I've always put 2 in. So again, you're going to do that with this sleeve as well. You're going to put 2 rows of basting stitches at the bottom of your sleeve because you're going to gather this in so that it can fit around the cuff, the top of the cuff here. All right, so you're going to go ahead and take the end trails of your thread and you're going to go ahead and pull on those so you can gather some of this fabric in. You don't have to gather all of it in, just enough so that you can slip the cuff over and have a starting point. You're going to go ahead and release or add in some of these gathers depending on how much you need. So what you want to do is have your sleeve facing the bottom, facing up, right, like this. And you're going to open it up just like this, and you're going to slip the bottom of the sleeve into the cuff of the band, the sleeve band. And then you're just going to go ahead and find out if you need to gather more, which I think I do. Not so much, but you want to make sure that your gathers are even as well, because you don't want to have too many gathers in one place because then it will look really awkward. So make sure you have your gathers even. If you need to gather more, you just take the trail ends of your thread and you just gather in more, just like that, however much you need. And then once you find out whether or not you need more or less and you adjust it accordingly, then you can go ahead and start to find your notches and your seams. So let's start with the back seam first. Move those threads out of the way. So here is the back seam of my shirt, of the cuff, I'm sorry. And this is the back seam of the shirt. And we're just going to put those two together. And as you can see, I'm working with a rib knit, so it's really hard to see those seams. If that's the case for you, just make sure you take your time and look for those seams because you want everything to be lined up. And then you're going to pin it in place. Okay, so that is my back seam matched. The back seam of my cuff is matched with the center back seam of the sleeve. And then I'm going to just go around and find the notch for the cuff and the notch for the sleeve. So here's my notch here. You could barely see it because I'm working with, like I said, a rib knit here. And here's my notch for the sleeve. So I'm just going to match the sleeve and the cuff at that notch there. And then everything in between, we just want to make sure that those gathers are nice and even. and we can go ahead and pin those down. So for this part of the tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put on the sleeves and the neckband onto the garment. After that, it will be done and you will only need to hem the bottom of the shirt at that point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start by taking our we're going to go ahead and start by taking the thread trails on the sleeve head here, and we're going to go ahead and gather that in just slightly because you don't know how much you're going to need. You don't know how much you need to gather that cap there. So I always start with just a little bit at first, and then if I need more, I will go ahead and gather more in once my cap is attached to the sleeve. So I just kind of, gather it just a little bit. And then you should have notches on your shirt. So if you see 2 notches, that means that is going to go at the back of the garment. And then if you see 1 notch, that means that is going to go at the front of the garment. And it's really important that for those of you who are beginners, that you understand that, because if you put the sleeve on to your shirt in the wrong position, so say if you attach the back of the sleeve to the front of the garment, it's going to look awkward and it will not sit right. So make sure that you always put those notches inside your garments, and make sure that you attach your sleeve with the corresponding notches on the sleeve, on the notches on your garment. Sorry, I hope that made sense. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by finding the side seams of the top and the side seams of the sleeve, and we're going to go ahead and match those just like this. Okay, and then you're going to put your pin inside of your side seam there to hold the position of the shirt. Next, you're going to go ahead and match up your notches. So I usually start with the back. You're going to do the same thing to the left side of the garment. Make sure that those tail ends, these trails, make sure that your thread trails are out of the way. Match up your notch. and pin it. And you place your pins in. And then you're going to find the mark on the top of your sleeve head. There should be a mark here. I usually just put a little snip there, a little notch, instead of doing a mark, because it's within the seam allowance and that's going to get cut off anyway. So I usually just put a mark there, and then you're going to line that up with your shoulder seam here, just like that. And you're going to place a pin in that as well. And now you're going to go ahead and see how much you need to gather, or how much you need to let out between your shoulder notch and your front notch, and your shoulder notch and your back notch. If you need more fabric, if you need to gather in more fabric, you just take your thread trails and just pull it so that you can gather in that area. If not, if you need to let it out, just slightly pull just like that.